He should have burned her with holy iron, so why did it burn him instead? The village of Briar Hollow looked like a place that had learned to survive by staying small. It sat in a shallow valley where winter lingered too long, roofs bowed under frost, and every doorframe had an iron nail hammered into it like a ward. Smoke curled from chimneys in thin, nervous threads. Even the dogs didn't bark much. They watched, then backed away. Vaela paused beneath the gate arch and let the hood of her travel cloak fall forward, shadowing the top of her face. The cloak was old wool, heavy and damp at the hem from the road. Under it, she wore a simple off-shoulder dress, practical linen that tied tight at the waist, loose enough to move. It was warmer than it looked. Most people didn't know blue skin held heat differently. Her left horn showed anyway. The hood seam couldn't lie flat across the curve. A crescent of dark horn peeked out like a confession. A boy saw it first. He stared, eyes round, then pointed. His mother slapped his hand down so hard the sound cracked through the cold. "Don't," she hissed. "Don't look at it. It." Vaela kept her chin down and walked into the square as if she belonged there. As if she hadn't learned, year by year, that belonging was just a performance you got good at before someone decided you were lying. She headed toward the bread stall, because bread was safe. Bread meant people were still pretending the world was normal. A man behind the stall paused mid-slice when he noticed her horns. His eyes flicked to her shoulders, then to her mouth, as if he expected fangs. Vaela placed 2 coins on the counter. 1 loaf. The man's fingers hovered above the bread as if it might bite him. "We don't sell to." A bell rang from the chapel. Not the slow bell of prayer. A fast, sharp bell. A warning. The stallman flinched, snatched his loaf back, and backed away as though Vaela had pulled a blade. All around the square, shutters slammed. Doors bolted. A woman grabbed her toddler and ran, skirts whipping snow. Vaela's stomach tightened. They've decided it's today. Then she smelled it. Sanctified iron. Not nails and tools. Not honest metal. Iron that had been soaked in prayer and dried in smoke. The kind of iron that lived near witch hunters and holy chains. Vaela shifted her weight toward an alley. And a man stepped into her path as if he'd been waiting for her to move. He wore dark leather armor under a long coat. A fur collar hugged his throat. A steel badge pinned to his chest caught the gray daylight, a sun impaled on a spike. Witch hunter. He was younger than she expected, late 20s, early 30s, but the calm in him made him older. His hair was black and cut short. Stubble shadowed his jaw. His eyes were storm gray, almost silver. They swept the square once, then settled on Vaela. "Morning," he said like they were strangers sharing weather. "You're far from the coast." Vaela didn't answer. His gaze dipped once to her horn, then returned to her face. "You're not hiding well," he added, still calm. Vaela's voice came out low. "I'm not here for trouble." "That's what trouble says," he replied. The chapel bell rang again. Faster. The witch hunter's mouth twitched as if he'd expected it. "Good," he murmured. "They're ready." Vaela's nails bit her palms inside her sleeves. "Who are you?" He didn't show his teeth. Didn't brag. "Lucan Crowe," he said. "Order of Iron." Vaela's blood cooled. "Then you know what I am." Lucan's eyes held hers without flinching. "I know what they think you are," he said. "And I know what mobs do when they're bored of being afraid." As if summoned by his words, the chapel doors burst open. A priest rushed out with white hair streaming from his hood. Behind him, 2 men carried a crate that clinked with glass. Holy vials. Vaela's lungs tightened. The air itself tasted metallic. Lucan stepped slightly closer, not touching her, but close enough that his body blocked her from the priest's direct line. The priest lifted a vial high. By the Order's authority, no stranger leaves this square until we know what walks among us. The crowd's eyes swung toward Vaela like blades. Lucan lifted his hand. Hold, he commanded. The priest's gaze snapped to him. Crowe, this is not your village. It becomes my village when you start a riot, Lucan said, voice flat. Put it down. The priest tightened his grip. We have reports. Horns. Blue skin. A devil in our square. Vaela's shoulders prickled under her cloak. She could feel their fear like heat. Lucan turned his head slightly. Name, he said to Vaela. She tasted the lie that rose automatically. Vera. Lucan's eyes didn't change, but something in his stare sharpened as if he'd marked the lie and set it aside. The priest cocked his arm back. The vial flew. Vaela moved without thinking, not away, but forward. Straight into Lucan's reach. Lucan grabbed her wrist hard. Stay, he murmured, and the word hit Vaela's ribs like a hook. Lucan turned and caught the splash with his bare palm. Holy iron water sizzled against his skin with a wet hiss. The square went silent. Vaela stared at Lucan's hand. Blistering. Reddening. And then, worse, he didn't scream. Lucan flexed his fingers as if pain were just information. He stared at the priest. Some things burn everyone, he said. The priest stammered, it burns you. Lucan's eyes cut. Put the vials away. The priest swallowed. Then prove you're loyal, he snapped. Test her. Lucan's thumb pressed against Vaela's pulse as he still held her wrist. A small, intimate pressure that made her heart betray her. Lucan lifted a fresh vial. Last chance, he said to her softly. Tell me what you are. Vaela's jaw clenched. Alive, she said. Lucan's gaze dropped, briefly, to her bare shoulder where the cloak had slipped. Then back to her eyes. He tipped the vial. Not onto her. Onto the stone at her feet. The iron water steamed on contact with the ground. And Vaela's shadow, stretched long by winter light, twitched. Wrong. It moved separate from her body. Someone screamed. Vaela's throat went dry. Lucan's voice was quiet, almost to himself. There you are. And Vaela realized, with a sick drop in her stomach, that he hadn't come to Briar Hollow by accident. He'd come for her. The moment Vaela's shadow twitched, the mob found its courage. The priest lifted another vial. You see. It betrays itself. Lucan stepped fully between Vaela and the square. Enough, he said, and the word carried authority that didn't match the village's priest. No one throws another vial. The priest's face flushed. You protect it? Lucan didn't look back at Vaela. I protect the law, he said. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a sealed parchment. Black wax. Official crest. By decree of the High Seat, Lucan announced, any suspected non-human is to be delivered alive to Shadowmere Palace for examination. The crowd stilled. The priest's lips tightened. Shadowmere is far. You should be grateful, Lucan replied. I'll take her. Vaela's stomach dropped. Shadowmere. Palace. Examination. She'd heard enough stories to know examination meant chains, whether they called them that or not. The priest stared hard at Lucan. And if she kills you? Lucan's gaze flicked briefly to Vaela, almost private. Then she kills me, he said. But she doesn't kill you. He turned and tugged Vaela toward the edge of the square. The villagers parted like a wound opening. At the gate, Lucan finally spoke low enough for only her. Your real name, he said. Vaela's breath fogged. Why do you care? Because lies smell, Lucan murmured. And yours are loud. Vaela's fingers curled. She could run. She could vanish into tree shadow and snow and never be seen again. But the priest's vials. The mob. The road beyond. Winter. And Lucan's grip, steady, not cruel. Vaela swallowed. Vaela. Lucan repeated it once, testing it like a key. Vaela. The way he said it made her horns prickle. They left Briar Hollow under sleet. On the road, Vaela watched Lucan's burned hand. The blistered skin should have stayed blistered. Holy ironwater didn't forgive. But by the time the village disappeared behind hills, the burn had already begun to knit. Vaela's voice came out quiet. You heal fast. Lucan's jaw tightened. Don't watch that. So you're cursed, Vaela said. Lucan's gaze stayed forward. Maybe. Vaela laughed bitterly. A witch hunter cursed by the same things he uses. Lucan's mouth twitched. Don't romanticize it, he said. It's not poetic. It's inconvenient. Vaela stopped walking. The sleet tapped her hood. If you're taking me to Shadowmere to cage me, she said, I'd rather fight you here. Lucan turned slowly. I'm taking you to Shadowmere, he said, because something is wrong there. Vaela's throat tightened. Wrong how? Lucan reached into his satchel and pulled out a small vial, not holy water. Something thick and dark clung to the glass like ink mixed with ash. I found this, he said. On the last body. Vaela's skin prickled. Whose body? Lucan's eyes held hers. A witch hunter, he said. Skin from the inside. Vaela's shadow pooled wrong at her feet. Hungry. Lucan noticed. Of course he did. You're fighting it, he said. Vaela's voice went tight. It doesn't always behave. Lucan nodded once as if that confirmed something. Then we're both on borrowed control, he said. Vaela stared at the grey road toward Shadowmere and felt the shape of the trap forming around them. Who's killing your hunters? She asked. Lucan corked the vial and slid it away. That's what we're going to find out, he said. And if it's the palace? Vaela pressed. Lucan didn't answer immediately. His gaze went distant for a heartbeat, like he was seeing a memory he didn't want. Then he said quietly, then we're walking into the mouth. They made camp in a shallow hollow where rocks broke the wind. Lucan built the fire fast, efficient. Vaela sat opposite him, hood half up, one horn showing. She kept her hands hidden. Lucan watched her anyway. Stop, she snapped. Lucan tossed a branch onto the flames. Your nails, he said. They're not human. Vaela's jaw tightened. It's cold. Lucan's eyes flicked to her bare shoulders. You're not shivering like cold, he replied. Vaela leaned forward, voice low. What are you doing? Cataloging me? I'm trying to understand what I'm walking beside, Lucan said. If you decide to kill me in my sleep, I'd like to know why. Vaela stared into the fire. I don't kill for pleasure. Lucan's voice softened a fraction. Neither do I. Silence stretched. Wind hissed. Then Vaela's shadow twitched. Lucan's hand drifted to his sword. A silhouette moved beyond the hollow rocks. Not wolf. Not man. It stepped into firelight and Vaela's stomach turned. A tethered shade. Its skin looked like bark soaked in oil. Its eyes were pale holes. Around its neck sat an iron collar engraved with prayers. The shade's mouth split too wide. Crowe, it whispered in a voice like many whispers stuffed into one throat. Bring her. Lucan rose smoothly, blade half drawn. Who sent you? The shade tilted its head toward Vaela's horn. White chain, it hissed. Bring her to the iron house. Vaela's blood went cold. Seraphina, she whispered. Lucan's jaw tightened. We're found. The shade lunged. Lucan met it with steel. The blade cut through, no blood, only smoke. The smoke crawled up the sword toward Lucan's hand. Lucan flipped his grip and struck the collar. Sparks exploded. The collar cracked. The shade screamed like dry leaves burning and dissolved into black ash that the wind stole. Vaela's shadow stretched toward the ash, hungry. Stop, Vaela whispered harshly, yanking her own darkness back like a leash. Lucan watched her, eyes sharp. Pack, he said. Now. We don't sleep here. They moved into night. Hours later, the hills opened into a frozen plain. Vaela's legs trembled. Lucan slowed, then quietly took off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. Vaela stiffened. Don't. If you freeze, you slow me down, Lucan said, but the lie was clumsy. Vaela pulled it tighter anyway. Lucan crouched in front of her. If Seraphina is sending shades, he murmured, she's not just hunting you. Vaela swallowed. Then who? Lucan's eyes held hers. Me, he said quietly. She thinks you're the bait. The snow beneath them trembled. A crack split the frozen plain in the distance like lightning. Warm, foul breath rose from below. And far out on the ridge, black figures crested the hill, silent, steady, walking toward them. Order of Iron. 9 hunters. Maybe more behind the ridge. Chains glinted at their belts. Badges flashed. At the front walked Seraphina. White hair braided tight. White cloak lined with iron chain. Her face was young, but her eyes were winter. She stopped 10 paces away and smiled at Lucan. Crowe, she said. You've been difficult. Lucan didn't bow. I didn't want to be found. Seraphina's gaze slid to Vaela's horn. And you, she murmured. Early. Vaela's shoulders tightened under Lucan's coat. What do you want? Seraphina lifted a pendant, a sliver of pale crystal wrapped in iron wire. It pulsed faintly like trapped heartbeat. Vaela's blood chilled. Seraphina's smile sharpened. This came from your kind, she said. It came from someone you murdered, Vaela snapped. Seraphina's tone stayed pleasant. I purified, she corrected. And purified essence sings when kin is near. The pendant warmed in her palm. Vaela felt the call behind her sternum like a hook. Lucan's voice went low at Vaela's side. Don't react. Seraphina sighed. You will both come with me, she said. To Shadowmere. Lucan's hand went to his sword. No. Seraphina snapped her fingers. Hunters lunged, chains whipping. Vaela's shadow surged instinctively, slamming one hunter to the ground. Lucan drew steel and parried another. Seraphina watched like it was theater. Show me, she murmured to Lucan. Show me what you become when you protect a monster. Lucan's eyes flashed gold for a heartbeat. Vaela felt the air thicken. Old pressure. Ancient. Then the frozen plain trembled again, harder. The crack in the ice widened. Something climbed out. A thing shaped like a man only if you lied. Skin pale and slick. Eyes black hollows lit with faint silver. And on its head, broken horns. Jagged. Wrong. Vaela's shadow recoiled, suddenly afraid. The creature smiled. Hello, it said. Seraphina's composure cracked. What is that? The creature laughed wetly. A prayer answered, it purred. Your order has been feeding me for years. Lucan's gaze snapped to Seraphina. Feeding? Seraphina's jaw tightened. We cleanse. You throw bodies into the dark, Lucan said. And call it holy. The creature lunged at Lucan. Lucan struck, too slow. The creature swatted him aside. He hit Snow hard. Vaela attacked, claws out, shadow blade forming around her hand. Her strike sank into the creature like mud. The creature grabbed her wrist and Vaela felt it, the pull, the hunger, trying to drink her from the inside. Vaela screamed. Her shadow exploded outward, forcing it to release her. Lucan pushed up, eyes blazing, body changing. The creature's smile widened. Cursed man, it purred. Wake up. Seraphina's eyes gleamed with sick delight. Yes, she whispered. Vaela stared at Lucan as gold flared in his gaze again, longer this time. Not wolf exactly. Older. And Seraphina, behind them, quietly raised a vial of holy iron water, aiming it at Lucan's throat. Vaela's shadow snapped out and knocked it aside, shattering it harmlessly in snow. Seraphina looked at Vaela with satisfaction. So you protect him, she murmured. Lucan's voice went rough. Seraphina, what are you doing? Testing, she said calmly. If you burn, you're ordinary. If you don't, you're mine. The creature laughed. Bring them, it whispered. Bring the horned one, and the cursed man. The crack in the ice widened again, as if the earth itself wanted them delivered. And Vaela realized this wasn't a roadside attack. It was a harvest. They reached Shadowmere under sleet and grey sky. The palace rose black against the hills, spires like fangs. Iron veins ran through stone in subtle seams that made Vaela's skin prickle, not with pain but with pressure. Like her blood remembered being told to kneel. They were marched through a side entrance, down stairwells into colder air. The deeper they went, the more Lucan's breathing roughened, like something inside him pressed outward in response to the iron. At the bottom of the last stair, a circular chamber opened. In the center stood a door of dark metal with no handle. Only a symbol etched into it, a crescent horn wrapped around a sun spike. Vaela's stomach dropped. That's my people's mark. Seraphina smiled. Then you understand, she said. The door opens for you. Footsteps approached, heavy, calm, certain. A man stepped from shadow like he owned it. The king. Tall. Broad. Dressed in black that swallowed torchlight. A crown of dark metal shaped like a wolf's jaw sat on his head. His eyes pinned Vaela, brown almost black, flecked with gold. You brought her, the king said, voice deep. Seraphina bowed with practiced grace. As promised, your majesty. The king's gaze slid to Vaela's iron cuffs and his jaw tightened. Unchain her. Seraphina hesitated. Sire. Unchain her, the king repeated. The cuffs fell away. Vaela's shadow surged, relieved. The king stepped closer. I know what you are, he said quietly. And I know what you're trying not to become. Vaela lifted her chin. You don't know me. The king's eyes flicked to her horn. I know you're the key, he said. And Seraphina thinks keys are meant to be used until they snap. Lucan stepped between them, half-shifted tension in his shoulders. Don't touch her. The king's gaze didn't waver. You don't give me orders, Crowe. Lucan's eyes flashed gold. You don't get to claim her. The king's mouth lifted in a warning half-smile. Watch me. He reached out and brushed Vaela's horn with his fingertips. Silver-blue sparks jumped at the contact like lightning kissing water. The metal door hummed awake. Vaela gasped as memory slammed into her, iron corridors under the palace, mirrored metal, a heart-shaped thing bound in rings of iron and prayer. Not dead. Dreaming. The king stepped back, eyes sharp. Can you open it? He asked. Seraphina breathed, eager. Open it. Vaela pressed her palm to the door. The door answered with vibration in her bones. A seam appeared, thin, dark, like a cut in reality. The air thickened. Then Serafina, impatient, slapped her own palm beside Vaela's. Her pendant blazed. The seam widened. A hand emerged from the darkness behind the door, shadow-bound in iron rings. It grabbed the edge and pulled. Vaela's shadow surged toward it like a starving thing. Vaela stumbled, panic rising. No. Lucan grabbed her waist, anchoring her. Vaela. The king slammed a hand to the symbol. Close, he commanded. The door did not obey him. It obeyed Vaela. Because Vaela could feel it, horrifyingly clear. The door wasn't opening because she touched it. It was opening because something inside her answered it. And behind the seam, a voice purred like a promise. Vaela, it whispered. Come home. The thing behind the door didn't step through. It seeped, like smoke finding cracks. Shadow poured into the chamber and gathered into shape, a figure with slick pale skin, eyes like black hollows lit faintly with silver, and horns, broken, jagged, wrong. It smiled at Vaela with hungry reverence. You, it breathed. Last spark. It looked at Lucan next. Hunger turned to recognition. And you, it whispered. Unfinished beast. Then it turned to the king. Throne blood, it purred. The lock that thinks it is a king. The king lifted his chin. Name yourself. The creature smiled wider. Names are cages, it said. You built plenty. Serafina stepped forward, eyes shining. You are the hollow heart, she whispered. The hollow heart turned to her like she was an insect that learned to prey. White chain, it said. Feeder. A tendril of shadow snapped out and wrapped Serafina's wrist. She gasped as darkness crawled up her arm, draining warmth. The pendant at her throat dimmed. Lucan slashed the tendril, steel useless. Vaela thrust her hand forward and commanded her own shadow to bite. Her darkness snapped onto the tendril like a wolf, tearing it. The hollow heart hissed, surprised, and released Serafina. Serafina collapsed, shaking. Vaela's voice went cold. You don't get to eat her. The hollow heart's gaze gleamed. You can make shadow fight itself, it purred. Oh, little spark, you're better than I hoped. Lucan stepped beside Vaela. His shoulder brushed her bare skin. Heat sparked up her arm. You're bonded, the hollow heart sang. How sweet. Vaela's stomach dropped. Bonded? Lucan's jaw clenched like he didn't want the word. The king's eyes narrowed, gold flickering. The hollow heart spread its arms. Your curses are halves, it purred. Hunger. Beast. Lock. Together you become a door. Vaela's blood turned to ice. No, she said. The hollow heart reached for Vaela's shadow, caught it like silk, and yanked. Vaela screamed as her darkness peeled away, pain ripping behind her eyes. Lucan roared and slammed into the hollow heart. And the moment his claws touched shadow skin, Lucan jolted like lightning struck him. Gold flared in his eyes. His bones cracked beneath skin. His jaw lengthened. The hollow heart leaned close, intimate. Wake up, it whispered. Lucan's control slipped. Not fully wolf. Something older. Vaela clutched her head, shadow half-torn. The king watched Lucan, and his own eyes flashed gold in response, as if the beast answered beast. Serafina crawled backward, whispering prayers like ash. The door seam widened on its own. And the hollow heart purred, satisfied. Open, it commanded. Guards and councilmen thundered into the chamber. The council wore heavy robes and rings. Their eyes were sharp with calculation, not fear. One stepped forward, older, face soft with power. "Your Majesty," he said smoothly, "what is the meaning of this?" The king turned slowly, gold burning in his eyes. "The meaning," he said, "is treason." The councilman smiled. "We are your advisors." "You are parasites," the king replied. Seraphina's voice trembled. "They ordered the feedings." The councilman didn't even look at her. "Mind your place." The hollow heart laughed, delighted. "Ah," it purred. "The feeders arrive." The councilman's gaze finally landed on Vaela. "Open it," he ordered. "Finish what you are." Vaela's voice came calm, deadly. "I'm not your tool." The councilman's eyes narrowed. "Everything in this palace is a tool," he said. "Even kings." The king moved in a blur, slamming the councilman into the wall by the throat. Stone cracked. Spears lifted. Guards tensed. "Lower them," the king said softly. No one moved. The councilman wheezed. "You can't," he rasped. "You are bound. You are the lock." Vaela's stomach dropped. "They made him." Seraphina whispered, "They needed a cursed king to keep it quiet." The hollow heart purred, drinking the revelation. "Yes," it crooned. "Break, little king. Open me." Vaela's shadow, what remained, twitched toward the door seam as if it wanted to obey. Lucan, half-beast, leaned toward Vaela, breath hot. His voice scraped out, "Vaela, don't leave me." The plea cut through her panic. Vaela gripped Lucan's arm. "I'm here," she said. The king's voice went low, to Vaela. "If I lose control," he murmured, "this palace becomes a grave." "Then don't lose it," Vaela said. The king's mouth twisted, bitter. "Easy." Seraphina looked up, trembling. "Your father tried to seal it forever," she whispered. "They killed him for it." Silence hit like a blade. The king's face went stone. His gold eyes deepened. The hollow heart's smile widened. "Yes," it purred. "Anger loosens locks." Vaela stepped forward, shoulders bare, horns gleaming. "You want me?" she said to the hollow heart. "Take me." Lucan snarled. "No." Vaela didn't look back. "If it pulls," she said, "I pull back." The hollow heart lunged with all its shadow at once. Shadow slammed into Vaela like ice water. It tried to crawl into her eyes, her lungs, her mouth, trying to turn her into an open door. Lucan wrapped his arms around her from behind, anchoring her body. His grip was brutal, protective. "Stay," he growled, pleading, not commanding. Vaela's voice shook. "Don't let go." "I'm not," Lucan rasped. The king stepped in front of them, shadow-crowned, and thundered, "Enough." The torches dipped. The hollow heart laughed. "Locks obey," it purred. Then it whispered into Lucan's mind, through the strange invisible line that tugged between Vaela and Lucan. "Bite her. Mark her. Make her the door." Lucan's breath stuttered. His jaw tensed near Vaela's shoulder. Teeth shifted. Vaela felt it and went still. "Lucan," she gasped. "No." Lucan's voice cracked, fighting the beast. "I won't," he rasped. "I won't." The hollow heart surged again. Vaela's shadow began to peel away, drawn toward the seam. Vaela screamed, and silver lines flared under her blue skin, brightening. Her horns hummed. The seam widened. Vaela realized, sickly clear, the door opened as she broke. She pressed her cheek to Lucan's arm and whispered, "If I go, don't follow." Lucan snarled, furious. "Shut up." His teeth brushed her shoulder. Not a bite. But close enough that it branded her nerves. The hollow heart purred, delighted. Yes. And then the king's shadow exploded outward, wolf-shaped and massive, slamming through the chamber as the king's control finally slipped. The palace lights died. Total darkness. In the black, Vaela heard the hollow heart whisper her name like an old lullaby. Vaela, it said. Home. Vaela's voice came out ragged. I don't have a home. The hollow heart laughed softly. Then I'll be it. And Lucan, still holding her, growled into the dark, voice more beast than man. Touch her, he warned the darkness, and I will tear the world open to find you. The promise wasn't heroic. It was hungry. And Vaela, against her will, felt the bond tighten like a knot. When the torches flared back to life, the chamber looked different. Not physically, stone was still stone, but the air had changed. Like it knew something now. The king stood with his hands braced on his knees, breathing hard, eyes still gold-flecked. His cheek had healed where iron water burned him, leaving a faint pale line like a scar that shouldn't exist. Lucan had pulled Vaela behind him, half-shifted, claws flexing. His coat hung open, revealing faint symbols burned into his skin, matching the door's crest. Serafina watched them like someone watching a prophecy come true and not liking the ending. The councilman who'd been choked was on his knees, coughing, eyes hateful. You can't kill us, he rasped. If we die, the door opens. Vaela's stomach dropped. What? Serafina's voice went raw. They tied the ward system to their lives, she admitted. Living locks. Living keys. Living sacrifices. Vaela stared at Serafina. And you helped. Serafina's mouth trembled. I believed, she whispered. I believed we were keeping the world safe. Lucan's growl went low. You fed the hollow heart with my people. Serafina flinched. I. The hollow heart chuckled. She fed me, it purred. And now she regrets it. Delicious. Vaela's shadow twitched. Hungry to strike Serafina. Hungry to strike everyone. Vaela closed her eyes and forced her breathing slow. If I let my shadow choose, it will become what they call me. She opened her eyes and stepped forward. You want a door, Vaela told the hollow heart. But you're not the only one who can open things. The hollow heart's smile widened. Show me, it purred. Vaela reached down and pressed her palm to the iron-laced floor. She didn't call light. She didn't call prayer. She called the oldest thing she had left, will. Her shadow rose, not wild, not hungry, focused. It wrapped around her like armor. Lucan's breathing steadied as if her control steadied him too. The king watched her, something like awe flickering beneath fury. Vaela looked at Serafina. Do you want to make it right? She asked. Serafina swallowed. How? Vaela's voice stayed calm. Break your pendant, she said. Serafina stared. That's stolen, Vaela said. And it's feeding the hollow heart. Serafina's hand trembled at her throat. Then she yanked the pendant free and slammed it to the floor. It shattered. A pulse of pale light burst out, brief, warm, relieved, then vanished like a breath released. The hollow heart shrieked, furious. No. The door seemed trembled as if the creature suddenly lost a piece of leverage. Vaela felt the pressure lessen. Lucan's claws retracted a fraction. His voice came out more human. Good, he rasped. The councilman lunged toward Serafina, face twisted. Idiot. The king moved, intercepting, slamming him down. Enough, the king growled. No more feeding. The hollow heart hissed, tendrils lashing, trying to reassert control. Too late, it snarled. You built me from hunger. Hunger doesn't die. Hunger spreads. The floor trembled again. And Vaela felt it, outside the chamber, through the palace, through the kingdom, shadows stirring, iron warming, children's eyes flashing silver. The hollow heart wasn't just in the door anymore. It was in the world. Vaela's throat tightened. It's already leaking. The king's voice went low. Then we stop it at the source. Lucan's eyes met Vaela's, bond taut. How? Vaela swallowed hard. We give it what it wants, she said. But not the way it expects. They moved fast. The king locked the chamber, sealing councilmen inside with guards. Not mercy, strategy. Serafina followed, pale and shaking, but she didn't run. That alone was a choice. Lucan stayed glued to Vaela's side as if distance was dangerous now. Each time his shoulder brushed her bare skin, Vaela felt the spark, connection like heat through bone. They descended deeper into Shadowmere, into a corridor older than the palace above. Iron veins ran thick in the walls. The air hummed with pressure. At the end of the corridor waited a larger chamber than the door room, round, echoing, with a pit in the center. Not empty. The pit breathed. Warm, foul air rose from it in slow pulses like lungs. Vaela's shadow shivered. Lucan's jaw clenched. This is where they dumped bodies. Serafina's voice cracked. Yes. The king's eyes were gold-flecked in the dim. This is where my father tried to end it, he said. The hollow heart's voice seeped from the pit like oil. You came, it purred. Good. Vaela stepped to the edge and looked down. In the dark below, faint silver lights winked like trapped stars, fragments of stolen essence, fermenting into hunger. Vaela's stomach twisted. My people, she whispered. Lucan's hand hovered near her waist as if he wanted to steady her but didn't dare touch without permission. Vaela breathed in and out, forcing her shadow calm. Listen, she said to the darkness. You want me. You want Lucan. You want the king. The hollow heart laughed. Yes. Vaela swallowed. Then take us, she said. But take us through choice. Silence. Then the hollow heart purred, intrigued. Choice. Vaela's voice stayed steady though fear scraped her ribs. If you feed by force, you rot, she said. If you feed by consent, you change. Lucan's eyes narrowed. Vaela. Vaela lifted a hand slightly, a signal, trust me. She looked at the king. Your blood is the lock, she said. Lucan's curse is the beast. My shadow is the hunger. Serafina whispered, that's the triangle. Vaela nodded. Then we rewrite what the triangle does. The king's jaw tightened. What do you need from me? Vaela's throat tightened. Your willingness, she said. To stop being a lock. The king's eyes flashed gold. If I stop being a lock, it escapes. Vaela's voice softened. Not if we become something else. Lucan's breath roughened. And what does it cost? He demanded. Vaela looked at him. The bond pulled like a rope. She hated that it mattered. She hated that his life mattered. It feels like dying, she said honestly. Lucan's mouth tightened. No. Vaela's eyes held his. We don't have a clean option, she whispered. The hollow heart purred from below. Decide, it whispered. Feed me, or I spread. Your world becomes my mouth. Serafina's voice shook. Vaela. I can help. Vaela glanced at her. Then stand with us, she said. Not above. Not behind. Serafina swallowed hard and stepped forward. The king did the same. Lucan stepped closest to Vaela, body angled protectively. Vaela breathed once, deep. Then she reached back and took Lucan's hand. His fingers tightened around hers like he'd been starving for the permission. Vaela's shadow rose around their joined hands like smoke. The hollow heart inhaled, delighted. Yes, it purred. Open. Vaela closed her eyes and let the bond pull fully open. Not to give the hollow heart entry, but to pull it up into the shape of their choice. The pit's breath became a roar. Shadow surged upward like a tide. It slammed into Vaela first, testing her, trying to overwhelm, and Vaela did not fight it like an enemy. She welcomed it like a wounded animal. Her shadow poured into her skin. Silver lines flared beneath blue flesh. Her horns hummed. Lucan gasped as his curse responded. Gold flooded his eyes. His bones cracked, but this time he didn't lose himself. He shaped the change, holding it in a controlled half-form, claws, fangs, strength, but mind intact. The king's breath hitched and his own shadow erupted, wolf-shaped and crowned. But instead of breaking, he leaned into it with a grim acceptance. I am not your lock, he growled into the darkness. The hollow heart screamed as if insulted. Seraphina lifted her hands and spoke, not a cleansing prayer, but a binding. Iron tongue turned inward. Her chains clinked as if responding, but they didn't strike. They supported. The shadow tide rose higher and took shape in the air, a face forming, jaws forming, broken horns forming. The hollow heart. It hovered above the pit like a crowned sickness. You belong to me, it hissed at Vaela. Vaela opened her eyes. They were no longer simply dark. They held a faint silver glow, steady, not wild. No, Vaela said calmly. You belong to what you were stolen from. The hollow heart laughed. You can't give stolen things back. They're already changed. Vaela's voice tightened. So are we, she said. Lucan stepped forward, claws flexed, voice a growl wrapped in human words. You want hunger, he snarled. Have mine. The hollow heart lunged at Lucan. And Vaela yanked the bond tight, pulling the hollow heart's shadow into the space between them like a net. The king slammed his palm to the floor, and iron veins in the chamber lit faintly, not burning Vaela but anchoring the shadow. Seraphina's iron words tightened the anchor. The hollow heart shrieked. No. Vaela stepped forward, bare shoulders glowing faintly, horns humming. You fed on fear, she said. So here is something you don't understand. She pressed her palm to her own chest. And gave a portion of her essence, not ripped away, not stolen, offered. The gift hit the hollow heart like clean water. It sputtered. Its shape flickered. Lucan stared at Vaela. Vaela. Trust me, Vaela whispered. Lucan swallowed hard and did something that would have been unthinkable a week ago. He offered his curse. Not the violence. The strength. The survival. The refusal to die. The king, jaw clenched, offered his last piece, the lock. Not control. Responsibility. The hollow heart convulsed as the three offerings collided inside it. The shadow beast shrank, then expanded, then tore like cloth. It screamed, not with hunger, but with something new, confusion. You can't, it hissed. Opposites. We're not opposites, Vaela said, voice harmonizing faintly with Lucan's growl and the king. The iron veins in the chamber shifted color, no longer harsh. They glowed faintly, silvered, tempered. The hollow heart's broken horns softened, reshaping into smoother curves. Its eyes, once hollow, filled with light that looked like trapped stars finally released. It wasn't dying. It was unbecoming. The hunger dissolved, not into nothing, but into the air, into the world, like seeds. The pit's breath slowed. The pressure lifted. Seraphina collapsed to her knees, sobbing once, like someone who didn't know she'd been holding her breath for years. Lucan's claws retracted gradually, his breathing steadying. The king sagged against the wall, eyes still gold-flecked but calmer. Vaela stood at the edge of the pit, shaking, her shadow now quiet at her feet, no longer clawing to escape. The hollow heart's last whisper rose, not hungry now, but small. "I remember," it breathed. Then it dissolved completely. Not into a monster, but into a hush. And the palace, for the first time in centuries, felt like it wasn't starving. The councilmen tried to call it heresy. They tried to call it treason. But when the king walked into the throne hall with gold-flecked eyes and a scar that shouldn't heal, the room fell silent. Vaela stood at his side without chains, hood down, horns fully visible. Her shoulders were bare, blue skin catching torchlight like the surface of deep water. She didn't shrink. She didn't apologize. Lucan Crowe stood one step behind her, not as her captor but as her guard, though the way his gaze tracked the room looked less like duty and more like instinct. Serafina stood opposite them, white cloak now stained at the hem from kneeling near the pit. She had no pendant. No trophy. Only empty hands. The king's voice cut through the hall. "My father was murdered," he said. "By men who fed a monster beneath this palace and called it safety." Murmurs rose. A councilman stepped forward, face tight. "Sire." Silence, the king snapped, and his shadow, wolf-crowned, flared briefly behind him like a warning. The hall went dead quiet. The king continued. "The Order of Iron will be reformed," he said, gaze cutting to Serafina. "No more hunting for sport. No more feeding pits. No more trophies." Serafina swallowed hard. "I accept," she said, voice raw. "If you let me earn it." Lucan's voice came low. "We'll be watching." Serafina flinched but nodded. Then a servant girl near the far wall, no older than 10, stepped forward without meaning to, as if pulled by a tide. Her eyes held faint silver flecks. She stared at Vaela, not afraid. Curious. Vaela's chest tightened. More children emerged, a boy with a shadow that moved a half-beat late, a young guard whose palm warmed an iron spearhead without noticing, a maid whose reflection in a window shimmered with faint light. The world had been changing long before Vaela arrived. The hollow heart had been leaking for years. Vaela spoke softly so the hall had to lean in to hear. "The essence you tried to bury," she said, "didn't vanish. It spread." Serafina's breath hitched. Vaela stepped toward the children, slow, careful. "You're not cursed," she said gently. "You're not broken." The children watched her like she was a story made real. Lucan's hand hovered near Vaela's waist, not controlling, not claiming. "Just ready." The king's voice went firm. "From this day, Shadowmere becomes a sanctuary," he declared. "For humans, for wolves, for horned ones, for whatever new forms rise." A councilman spat, "And if monsters come?" Vaela turned, calm. "Then we teach them to stop being monsters," she said. "The way you never taught yourselves." A hush fell. In that hush, Lucan stepped closer to Vaela, voice low enough that only she heard. "You rewrote it," he murmured. Vaela's throat tightened. "We rewrote it," she corrected. Lucan's eyes held hers, storm gray with a faint warmth. "What are we now?" he asked. Vaela breathed, feeling her shadow steady at her feet, feeling her horns not like a target but like a crown. "Alive," she said. "And not alone." Lucan's mouth twitched. "Good." The king watched them both, then looked out over his hall. "The age of feeding ends," he said. "The age of balance begins." Outside, the winter wind shifted, still cold, still honest. But the iron nails and doorframes no longer felt like threats. They felt like tools. Vaela stepped into that new world with her horns uncovered. And for the first time in a decade of running, she didn't feel the need to hide. But as she passed beneath the hall's tallest arch, her shadow lifted slightly and curled. Not hungry. Protective. Like it had finally learned what it was for. And somewhere far from Shadowmere, in a village that had once rung a bell to warn of devils, a child laughed. Silver flecks in their eyes catching sunlight, while their shadow danced perfectly in time.